Hey, in this video, I'm going to show you how to install the Uncomplicated Firewall on Ubuntu. So there are many firewalls that you can install on your Linux system. I'm choosing the Uncomplicated Firewall because it was developed by Canonical and you can't find it in the Snap Store. But for the sake of this example, I'm actually going to be installing it with the terminal. So to install it, we do sudo apt install ufw. And we can check to see if the firewall is enabled or disabled with the status. So we do sudo ufw status. And we can see that it's inactive. And we can enable the firewall with this command. And we can also disable the firewall with the disable flag. And now we can check our status once more. See that our firewall has now been disabled again. So let's enable our firewall once more. So we can check the firewall status with the status option, and then if we want to see the rules, we add a verbose to this. And so this is the default settings for the Uncomplicated Firewall. You can see that it has logging set to low, it is active, and by default it's allowing incoming and outgoing traffic. So by default, the Uncomplicated Firewall has 5 different logging levels. It supports no logging, low, medium, high, and full. We can find the logging in the variable folders. So that's going to be variables log ufw, and I'm going to tab to complete. And of course you can kind of filter and grep as needed. To change the logging level, you can do sudo ufw logging, and again you can specify with the off, low, medium, high, or full. I'm going to be changing it from low to high, and then we see that logging is enabled, and I'm just going to tab up to go back to being able to see the status verbose, and we can see that we actually made that change and the logging has been changed to high. One last thing I want to do is set up an aggressive firewall, and I'm going to kind of walk you through that. So I'm going to do sudo ufw default deny incoming. Then I'm going to do sudo ufw default deny outgoing. I'm going to enable SSH, so I'm going to do allow SSH. And then I also want to enable HTTP traffic. Well, actually HTTPS traffic. I'm going to allow that as well. I'm going to clear my screen. And then I'm going to do the status verbose once more. And we can see that we made those changes to the firewall. So we're denying incoming traffic. We're denying outgoing traffic. We enabled SSH and we're enabling HTTPS. Now this is a pretty aggressive firewall. With this aggressive firewall, the approach is simple. We're using the implicit deny method, where all traffic is blocked unless specifically allowed. This kind of firewall configuration follows a zero trust model, and changes to the firewall would only be made if there's a change request. We also enabled SSH to ensure that we can connect to the server hosting this firewall to make any configurations changes. This is equally important if we don't have physical access to the server, which is why SSH on a firewall is really, really important. We also allowed bidirectional HTTPS traffic. This ensures that HTTP traffic is secure and has a TLS connection. We can also reset our firewall with the UFW reset option. But before I reset it, it's a good rule of thumb before resetting the firewall to document your current settings. You can manually note down the current firewall rules with this command. So the UFW doesn't automatically create .old versions of its configurations, but what we can do is copy it with a recursive flag. etc ufw, and then we're going to put it into ufw or the underscore backup. So now if I ls etc /uf, and then I'm going to put an asterisk, we see that we have two options. We have our primary, which is what we just configured. This is our aggressive firewall, and then we have our aggressive firewall and all the rules, but as this backup, right? So now if I was to go and do a UFW reset, hit yes. I'm gonna clear my screen real quick. Now we see, if I was to do UFW status verbose, our status is inactive, so we need to re-enable our firewall and then do the verbose once more. We see it's back to its default settings. But if I was to list what we have our uncomplicated firewall, and it has the default settings once more, but we also have that backup, and we can kind of pull that backup. We can do the sudo copy command once more with the recursive rule, etc ufw backup, and then I'm going to also do the asterisk because I want to pull all other files that may be inside the backup folder, and then we're going to put it into our etc ufw, and then let's do the verbose command. So what we did was erase our previous firewall configurations, but before erasing it, we made the backup, and then we pulled those backup settings, and we have that aggressive firewall once again. And that's kind of a brief overview of some of the things you can do with the uncomplicated firewall.